Just extraordinary. Joining me now is New York Post columnist, Fox News contributor, and the author of the brand new book, The Big Guy, How a President and His Son Sold Out America. Miranda Devine is here with me. Miranda, great to see you. So much to get to with you this morning, and I'm thrilled about your new book. I cannot wait to read your new book. But first, give us your assessment and reaction to what you're hearing from the media. It's quite extraordinary, in my view.
Thanks, Maria. Yes, and look, what a great question by Peter Doocy to Karine Jean-Pierre, who is an absolute disgrace. That was a deliberate decision by the White House yesterday to paint Donald Trump yet again as a, quote, threat, even though they know perfectly well that it's their demonization. It's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz's demonization of Donald Trump, which actually goes back many years since he first came into politics. They have portrayed him as the second coming of Hitler. So is it any surprise that some of their followers, some of the viewers of MSNBC might take them literally and think that he is an existential threat? These people have pulled out no, all stops to portray January 6, 2021, the riot at the Capitol, as being the worst terrorist attack since Pearl Harbor, worse than 9/11. This was completely ignoring the BLM Antifa violence that terrorized American citizens for months in 2020, as opposed to what was really just an inconvenience for some members of Congress for a few hours at their workplace. Yeah. But they haven't stopped. And what Karine Jean-Pierre and all those, that montage of talking heads you just played, what they show is that they are going to double down, and in Orwellian fashion, they are blaming the victim, Donald Trump, for instigating the violence that they have instigated.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's incredible to me that they get away with this. I mean, you've written about this ramped up rhetoric in a recent op-ed this week where you put the blame directly on Democrats for the heightened political climate. Miranda, I mean, at this point, they're not stopping, and it's clearly dangerous what they're doing. But, I mean, do they not understand? Do they not recognize what they're doing? Or are they just so, in their bubble? What are they so afraid of around Donald Trump is what I keep asking. I mean, look, indictments, impeachments, Russia collusion, Hunter Biden's laptop lies, then, of course, that all of this rhetoric triggering 2 assassination attempts. What are they so afraid of? Clearly, he represents a threat to their holding on to their grip on power.
That is the existential threat that Trump poses, and it's on behalf of the American people, and it's against this rotten, corrupt establishment in Washington that's dominated by Democrats and that weak Republicans have gone along with for so long. They've lost elections because they're just not willing to fight. And there's nothing violent about Donald Trump standing up, having almost been killed by an assassin's bullet, and holding his fist aloft and saying, fight. Obviously, he's talking about fighting the election and winning, which is an uphill battle for him because he's battling the media, which lies and has just become an arm of the Democratic Party. He's fighting the deep state, the intelligence community, whoever is involved in coordinating these assassination attempts. And everybody who knows anything about this kind of political violence says it won't stop here, that he is in mortal danger, and the Secret Service and Alexander Mayorkas are not really exercised about that. They're treating this as if it's just some everyday occurrence. This is unprecedented. This is historic. This is so dangerous.
Yeah, and we need to hear from Mayorkas. I don't know why more people are not talking about Alejandro Mayorkas. He is overseeing all of this. Not only did he oversee 10 million illegals coming into this country, but he also oversees the Secret Service, and you haven't heard peep from him. And don't you find it ironic, Miranda, that once again they take that same strategy out, and that is change the conversation? Okay, the timing of the P. Diddy arrest Please. They must have had the P. Diddy arrest on the shelf, waiting to take it off the shelf for when they needed it. And yesterday, boy, oh boy, did they need it, because the questions were spiking everywhere as far as how it is possible that another assassination attempt happened, that another would-be assassin was within a couple of 100 yards of President Trump. As we're all asking these questions, boom, they take P. Diddy in. And now we're all talking about that. Take it off the front page. This strategy over and over again. I saw right through it as soon as it happened.
Gosh, I hadn't even thought of that, but you're absolutely right. It's typical of how they manipulate the narrative very well. And look, it is very difficult for them, the questions about this latest assassin, because he had many encounters with federal authorities because he had raised red flags wherever he went.
Exactly.
There was a nurse who reported him twice. Right. There was John Solomon's scoop yesterday about how when he came back from Ukraine last year, he was picked up at the border by Border Protection, and they thought that he was suspicious, and they passed him on to Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas's outfit, and they declined to do anything.
Right, but they want those questions to go away, so they gave the media a nice, perfectly wrapped package to go wall to wall with. CNN was wall to wall on P. Diddy yesterday, which we'll get to, and I know it's a very important story, don't get me wrong, but they've known about it. They were waiting to bring it out when they needed to, and yesterday was the perfect day. 2 IRS agents, by the way, who blew the whistle on the interference surrounding the Hunter Biden tax case, now suing Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell. They're suing for $20 million, Miranda, Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler, accusing Lowell of retaliation as they work to expose how the investigation into Hunter was handled. As you know very well, you broke the story. The filing alleges that Lowell, quote, falsely and maliciously accused the 2 whistleblowers, Shapley and Ziegler, of committing crimes, namely the illegal disclosure of grand jury materials and taxpayer return information, despite the fact that they never publicly discussed return information that was not already public. Miranda, you wrote all about it. In this recent op-ed, you highlighted these whistleblowers and how they have been treated. Your reaction real quick before we go.
Look, I'm so glad that Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler are able to get this sort of attempt to redress the balance and the smears against them, led, of course, by Hunter Biden's lawyers, but also by the media that has always covered for the Bidens. It's been despicable. They are just the most honourable public servants. We all owe them a debt of gratitude. Without them, Hunter Biden would not have had to plead guilty the other week to tax felonies in California, and he would not have been found guilty or charged even in Delaware because U.S. Attorney David Weiss was going to let him off scot-free without pleading guilty to anything after a 5-year completely obstructed investigation.
Yeah, no comment there about the money laundering charges that we've heard from James Comer and the Oversight Committee, but we'll keep a spotlight on that one as well. Miranda, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Miranda.
Miranda Devine joining us.